Okay, thank you for being with us this morning. We're here at the Golf Public Purchase. Thank you, Carl Alexander and Colin, for setting this up. A very special thank you to the Golf Public Purchase for allowing us to be here and hosting us today. As we get into this, I wanted to just alert you that we have another educational seminar next Tuesday with Ray Ford and Jim Garvin, and then again the following week prior to the PGA show. So please log on, look at the upcoming seminars as we get everything finalized. We will continue to post them. We're going to go all the way up until April. So we have somewhere between 16 and 20 seminars. Obviously, you get your professional development points awarded to you for your attendance. So that's one caveat. The other is once you go through a bunch of these seminars, you're all going to be a lot smarter about your jobs. And who doesn't need to be smarter about their jobs in today's competitive marketplace? So Carl, Rob, thank you very much. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. We've been communicating the last few weeks about setting this up and going forward. Rob, you sent me a long email last night. Right, one that I didn't expect, one that I appreciate. And you talked about everything that you're doing and have done this past year, everything you're doing on the Champions Tour. And once again, you impressed me with your ability to share. I think this is really great for us because we don't often get to sit down like never with tour players in person and find out about the answer of everything you do, because a lot of the players in this room, as well as the players in the section, want to be competitive. And just by our conversations and the information that you and Carl have been so kind to share with me in the last few weeks, I get the impression that you're a much different tournament player today than you were a year ago at this time after you were a medalist in the qualified school.
Oh my gosh, it's done a 180 from what I've learned in the year that I've been out there, from being exposed to, the greatest players over 50 on the planet, and the trainers, and listening to Carl, and it's just a wealth of knowledge that I've learned, which I didn't actually have when I went out there.
Right.
Being from Florida, I kind of understand the grass. I got through Q school, one Q school, but then I started to go to Calgary, started to go to California, started to go to these other places, and I noticed that my game was deficient, especially on the greens, and I was kind of scratching my head.
So you affectionately referred to yourself as the rookie. So when you left here last year and gave us all that excitement about being the medalist and making it on the Champions Tour and having a full schedule in front of you, like we all, as you did, we're all following you and have high hopes for you. We follow you on the app all year long. I just want you to know that you have such an impact on all of us as golf professionals here in the Met section that you may not be aware of how positive that impact is for us to know you as a fellow professional, as a friend, and for your willingness to share and respond to tweets and emails and texts that we send you. So thank you for sharing. It means so much to all of us. You're going to make all of us better players and better teachers with your willingness to share all this information.
I hope that information helps everybody. That's why we're here today.
And I'll just jump in and say the one thing I noticed that Rob changed was, and it's understandable because when you're flying tournament golf, you're completely into your own move. You think what you're doing is really good. You have confidence in what you do. And I think Rob developed way more of a growth mindset that we've talked about in seminars, an open mindset, a growth mindset. He got out there and he's like, wait a minute, there's a lot more for me to learn than walking around the Met section going, I'm the best player, right? Which is a great mindset. But when you go to the next level, you can't just say I'm the best player. It's looking around saying, this guy just shot 65 and his swing doesn't look so good. Mine's way better. I hit it 40 yards farther. How did he just do that? So Rob started taking on way more of that growth mindset and started to ask questions. And I think that was a big step. And
I saw that in the email response last night.
Yeah.
What impressed me about the response last night was that Rob referred to himself as the rookie, which you were, right? But I guess going through the year and having the experiences you had in your conversations, I know Carl's been out on tour with you a number of times, that you didn't realize how much of a rookie you were, did you?
No.
And I think that's a tremendous introspection.
Yeah, I mean, you start teeing it up against these guys and even playing practice runs with them, and you see how they handle themselves around the greens. I'll refer to around the greens a lot because I was deficient around the greens. If you added one shot in my top 10s, take away one shot in my top 10s, I would have been in the top 36. So that's how tight it is around.
Yes.
One shot in the US Senior Open, I would have finished almost 20th on the money list. So there's, you have to learn, every shot out there is so valuable that you have to understand what you're doing and you can't take any shot for granted.
Right, I saw that, and and like I said, I was following you, and I know the shot you're referring to at the Senior Open. Obviously, it's a painful shot, it's a painful memory, but I got the impression by talking to you and listening to you, and the way you've handled that is, you've taken that painful experience and you've learned from it, because obviously it's done, we can't change it, right? You can't go on, but. Since you mentioned the Senior Open, that was in Stockton Valley.
Yep.
I guess that's one of your favorite places to play.
Every event that I played well in is my favorite place to play.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So, so when you had that shot if you had the opportunity to go back now, knowing what you know, that shot didn't come off as planned. Why do you think that is?
So I was playing great up until that point. Now I'll even preface this to the shot before that.
Okay.
I had just birdied 16, and I was playing very solid and ton of confidence. The crowds were behind me. It was awesome.
You were pumped up.
I was pumped up.
Adrenaline going.
As hard as you can imagine. So I get up over the tee shot, and my caddy, Mark Schoenwald, who's been out for 30 years. He's an awesome guy. Said, he calls me Papa. Papa, you got to aim for the right portion of the front of the green. He goes, don't go pin hunting. I said, I got a wedge in my hand. He goes, you got to go for the right part of that green, right front of the green. Do not go for the flag. I said, I got a wedge in my hand. I'm going right at the flag. He said, you got to go for the right part of the green. I said, I got wedge in my hand. I'm going at the flag. He goes, you do it, my man. So I hit it perfect right at the flag. It landed about 10 feet short of the flag, took 2 bounces and rolled about 5 inches into stuff that was about this long. And I had maybe myself from sauce, maybe an 8-foot pitch shot. Now, what I learned, it wasn't so much the pitch shot that did it. I was playing with Ernie Ellis. Ernie had hit it to the right front part of the green, and his ball stopped. So we were walking by, and I was making my practice swings, and I hit that shot in the practice round 100 times, 100 times from that same spot. I hit it 100 times, if not 200. We stood there for a couple hours almost to hit that shot. So Ernie was away, and he said, you want to bring it up on the green? And I was in this moment where I was just pumped up. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to green. Go. And what I should have done was I should have said, no, Ernie, it's okay. You go, bring it up. Would have calmed myself down a little bit. I got up over the shot. I was excited to hit it. And, it just grass caught it. When I hit it off the house, went, 50 feet, right on the front edge of the green, which was a bummer because, I was pumped up and it was playing well.
You were in contention to win that.
I was in contention. Yeah. So it's not so much the shot itself, but it was myself telling myself to hit the shot.
So it had nothing to do with ability, had nothing to do with preparation.
It
had to do with the moment.
time.
And that's really valuable, isn't it?
That's, you put a veteran in that position, okay? He's going to say, no, go ahead. The guy who's away, go ahead, bring it up. I'll take my time. But I was like, Labritz, I'm going to get it. I want to get it done. I was so excited to get it done that I should have just calmed myself down, taken a few deep breaths, and taken my time with the shot. But I didn't.
So and that is what he learned. Is that like everybody knows in the tournament things happen so fast. Right? You think you got a minute to hit the shot, but a minute goes by like that when you got in this particular line. You probably have 4 different ways to play it. Put it back, chip it just on the fringe, let it release, open it up, try to hit the shot Jordan Spieth hit yesterday. If anybody saw him hold that one, there were a lot of ways to play that shot. It takes time under that pressure to go, all right, let me go through it all. I think the thing you learn, which we all learn when you play tournament golf, is good players just slow everything down. I think that was an important time to do it. Next time he's going to do it, right? He learned. And
he's a veteran now.
He's a veteran next year. And by the way, me saying that's not easy. Ernie Els says you want to bring it up. Who would have those go? Okay, Ernie. Instead of no, you're away. You play. It's but a veteran learns that, and then I think going forward, you're just going to be better because of it.
100%.
Yeah. So those experiences, you just can't buy that experience.
No. And to be honest, at 50 footer that I had coming back, I almost made it. It hit the edge. So, I almost made it, and then I had 4 feet coming back and didn't make 4 footer. So, when you're up by the lead, especially in a major event, not that I'm talking about it now, but I am talking. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That cost me a couple $100,000 just on that one hole, which is, I mean, that's what we all, that's what we all work for, right? That's what we try to get all these great salaries, and I mean, it comes down on the Champions Tour to one shot. So, that was a big one.
And but been a very valuable learning experience, because you're in contention. The moment was big, and you didn't handle it the way you're going to handle it now.
I'm an excited guy. I have a lot of energy.
I've noticed that.
So when I'm out there and I'm, you got the crowds behind you and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's you want to go. Even my caddy, when he calls me, he just says, okay, you run, because you want to run, because I let you run. And he wants to really analyze. So that's one of the things that I've learned.
Oh, that's really good. Speaking of caddies, I've been dealing with a number of caddies on both tours due to some green reading and some materials that I have available. And there's a gentleman from Plano, Texas, Michael Burns, who caddied for YEA. So we caddied for West Shore over the winter. He and I have struck up a number of conversations on the phone. And he said, once he figured out where I was from, he asked me if I knew you, and I did. And he said, he's the nicest guy in the world. And I said, well, that's nice for you to say. I said, he's a fellow professional, and he gives a lot to the section. And he said, no, I'm really serious. He said, I met him, and all he was concerned about was me. And he said, he made me feel like more important than a lot of my players make me feel when I caddied. And he said, I couldn't believe how nice this guy is. And he's that way to everybody. Is that who he really is? And I said, that's who he really is. I said, he's living his dream. He's excited to be on tour. I love your videos where you pan the crowd, you talk to people.
And those were videos just for myself, really, to just kind of look back on them. If I ever get down, or you were thinking about things, you could look at those situations and look at your videos and say, wow, okay, I remember that. It's sort of for myself, but I guess it went viral. So now I'm kind of doing it for myself. And
you do a lot of viral things, all good though. And I can see why, if I'm a fan sitting there, you engage me, then I'm your fan for the day. So not that you do it on purpose, because you're just an engaging person, and you're doing something that every one of us would love the opportunity to do. But you're bringing the fan into your game, and you care about them, and that shows. Now you create all these fans for the day, which has got to be very uplifting to you for them to want you to win so much.
Yeah. So when I get out there, it's there's so much ancillary things around fans and all that stuff that it takes my mind off of the shots, which I don't want to waste all that extra energy, focusing on the shot.
It's a long day to be that engaged all the time.
100%. So one of the things that I learned out with Todd, my first caddy, was when he would get to the ball, I would ask him right away, okay, what's our yardage? I didn't really give time to get the yardage, because I wanted it so badly, right? And I'm usually one of the longer guys, so I'm the last one to hit.
According to statistics, one of the longest.
Well, at least out there. But you get into this. I got into this mindset where I took 40 seconds to kind of get into the shot, and then after the 40 seconds, I shut it down. Now, after 3 rounds with my new caddy, or 3 turns with my new caddy, he said, "Okay, we're going to cut that 40 seconds to 20 seconds." He goes, "I want you engaging with everybody until you come to the ball. I'll give you your number. You look at the shot." And okay. So we've cut that down a lot to just limit my focus to. Now we took 20 more seconds off each shot, so now I have even more time to engage and relax.
Even taking the club out. Remember you talked about how he would get to the ball and he'd be the longest one, and he'd have 3, 4, 5 minutes. He'd grab his club and start swinging, and your caddy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!"
He's like, "Put that thing in the bag."
5 minutes before you got this thing, let's just relax, talk. And so that was one of the changes he made.
One of the things that I noticed when I had the opportunity to see you on TV was when you hit a shot that you weren't particularly fond of, you seem to take that shot to the hole. Like your expression, your demeanor, your walking, you seem like you were in a rush at times. Did you find that? Did you let go of it as well as you do today?
I think I let go of it more and more as the season went on.
You learned to let go of it?
I did, because I watched, playing in the group in front of Padre. I mean, the US Senior Open was probably my biggest learning experience, because I played in the last group and second to last group.
To me, that's the biggest tournament on Champions Tour.
They all become tournaments,
Right,
you know,
right. But I mean, as far as if I had one tournament I could win on the Champions Tour, Senior Open, it's like, that's the granddaddy.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah, I mean, that would be a good one. What were you-
We're talking about letting things go if you hit a bad shot, so
Oh,
how
yeah.
you improve during the year.
So watching a guy like Patrick Kent, he hits shots sometimes so far off, like all over the place. He'd come out of trees and hit it on the green to 35 feet, make a birdie. So here I watch this guy going 10, 11, 12 under, you know, as he's every week, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of like that. You got a perfect line on the tee, you got to hit it. You know, gives you the best chance for the green. If I don't hit in the fairway, not that I got upset, I would never get upset, but I'd be like, okay, well, I didn't obtain my goal. Whereas now, wherever I hit it, I'm gonna go and figure it out, find it, hit it again, because I can make birdie. And that's what I do. So it doesn't have to be so precise and so perfect.
So you're kind of taking the pressure off yourself somewhat by just accepting what you're doing. So you're learning how to be a player.
Yeah, I mean, as a PGA pro, you teach, you know, people to do things properly to lower their scores, and that was my mindset. Whereas now I get out there and I don't care. If I hit in a bunker, I can get out of the bunker and hit on the green. I hit in a rough, I can get on the green. And if I miss a green, I can get up and down.
That's a trick.
But it's also a struggle because, you know, I've been out there with Rob on the range where he's just piping, not miss the shot. And you get on the course, and all the fourth hole, you block the drive and you miss the green left. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, what's going on? I haven't missed the shot. How does that happen? So it's hard to just say, let it go, get this ball up and down, and go back and hit really well. It's something you got to learn.
Yeah.
That you're going to miss shots. And
I think that's really interesting what you mentioned about that, Carl, because you've played competitive golf all your life. You're one of the most celebrated members of the Met section as far as tournament victories. You had 2 club professional low finishes in the PGA Championship, and now into your 51st year, you're learning to let it go.
Yeah, and it took me 51 years to figure that out. However, I look at it the
Better
whole
than
way.
52, 53,
Well,
54.
But it's also the PGA pro. I mean, everybody in this room are all PGA pros. We teach people to try to do things better. And it's not a knock on it. It's just, you know, when you get out there, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect to win.
Your experiences out there on tour and what you're learning now, I get the impression if you had to come back to teach full time, you'd be a much different teacher than you were previously going on tour.
Oh, I would 100%. I would keep the way I got my point across to people, but I would definitely change how I went about it 100%.
So they don't have to be as perfect as they want to be.
No, and teaching, you know, what I've learned so much, especially now, you know, working a little bit more with Tyson, Alper's trainer for the past 2 months, is that, you know, in my fitness regime, I'm sure we'll get into this.
Yes,
I'm having more of what I need to do in my golf swing in my training. So, you know, my other trainer, Curtis, who I still use, he kept me injury free. He kept my body nice and loose. He's keeping me strong, but we never pattern the motions like Tyson and I are patterning. So you can almost, when you pattern these motions, you can almost just get out there and let it go because you're doing it, which is so different. And over the past 2 months, I just can't wait for 2023 because it's going to be a lot more for me.
And your first tournament is
Hopefully Morocco.
Morocco.
I'm in the field right now. But if 2 Hall of Famers decide to come in, I might be kicked out of the field because it's a short field.
Right.
And in my status where I'm at right now, I guess I'll be able to play anywhere between 18 and 26 events, but I'm gonna have to wait until the Friday before the event to kind of figure that out. I've got a few sponsored invites, so that'll help.
And stateside, it's a Chubb.
Stateside in the Chubb.
And in Naples. All right. So, and that was your inaugural event last year.
Yes.
Now, of course, that you know.
Yes. And
that kind of leads us into, you learned all your courses last year. You had a prodigious schedule of playing. To me, I was looking at what you were talking about. So you get 3 rounds in every PGA Champions Tour event, which gave you a 6 to 7 round week.
Well, so here's how my weeks panned out. You know, being the rookie, right? Most of the guys on tour have played these golf courses in the past 30 years or so, 20 years. So I had to go and I had to play 18 holes on Monday, 18 holes on Tuesday, We have pro-ams on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
There's four.
And then our tournaments are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there was a stint, which I think I wrote in my email, where I played 49 18 hole rounds in a row, including training and practice.
You just like golf, don't you?
I do love golf, but now, here's the funny part. Okay, so,
Played that much golf in
yeah, and that's, neither did I. Right. So you go into the second playoff hole, or second playoff event, and it was at the end of the season, and I finished last, right? It was, it's okay. I was mentally tired. I was getting, you guys couldn't see it on the outside, but I was getting frustrated. I was getting aggravated. And I wanted to know why I was getting frustrated and aggravated, because here I am living my dream, right? As I sat down after the season ended, I got sick for about 10 days. I got a bad sore throat. We didn't know what it was. I did a lot of writing, a lot of stress. I did a lot of writing. I wrote down every thought that I had while I was sitting on the couch of what I was feeling and what I was thinking about. And I realized that mental exhaustion was what kicked in towards the end of the season. And I never felt mental exhaustion. I always kind of dealt with it as a PGA pro, because we work all day, we teach all day, we do our meetings, and then we go play. So you get frustrated out the golf course. You're going to get frustrated on the golf course because you're all mentally tired. That's the way I got. When I was beginning of the season, I had a lot of adrenaline. I'm so happy you hit that shot. Who cares? It's great. But as you work your way into just working, and I told myself at the beginning of the season I was going to give it 150%. And I did. I gave it 150% with workouts, with training, with practice rounds, with everything. And I was gassed by the end of the season. So you look at a guy like Jeff Huggins, I played 200 and over 211 rounds in just my season. And that's not even counting the ancillary season before it started.
Did you plan to, so going into that season, right? Did you plan to obviously have expectations? Well, how would you know when to deviate or maybe go do something else to maybe help you with that? Or maybe you didn't know, right?
I got sick.
When you got sick.
So I gave it 150% until the end. And there were times my caddy said, I said, okay, we finished the round, let's go practice. He'd look at me and go, okay, because he's my, he's like, okay, let's go practice. And I practiced for 3 or 4 more hours, until I was the last one on the range. Sometimes I was the first one on the range. And, I was going to give it my all. And what I realized is that I did, but it doesn't do you any good. Yeah. So you look at guys like Fred Couples, who comes out, plays 6 events, shoots 60, it's like, but I mean, he brings his back, comes out, warms up, and a little bit of X, like, awesome. So that was a big learning experience.
You mentioned like you take care of your body with all right. Have developed some injury during that. Never had any problems.
Not one.
I would. Oh, sure. Get a little cold about the game.
So, that leads us into this guy. And he trains every guy. And I used to heck out of this thing all over my body, every morning, every night. With the trainer, I would just hit my calves, probably took in front of it, all of figured out some physical things that were in my calves that were going wrong, treat correctly. But yeah, this was my best friend, and of course the PGA Tour trainer, the trailer.
So you Theragun daily.
Every day.
Carries it in the bag. Carol Lambs has got it with him.
It's in my bag all the time.
I would also say the other strategy would be more short games. Instead of those 3 hours of range time, it's hit the putting green for an hour and a half in the afternoon or evening, maybe get some chips, but not standing on the range and beating balls, which can get exhausting. And Rob and I did talk about it. Sometimes you got to remember, we don't hit that many golf balls as PGA golf professionals. He's got all day to hit balls. You can get yourself in trouble. You can tinker, see something, try something, get down the wrong road. So sometimes when you hit balls a lot, you got to be careful to keep it simple.
And that's a good point, because what we noticed too is my final rounds in some of these events were not the greatest. And I would hit the ball left. Left was my miss. Okay, I hooked the ball. So it was actually my physical body, although I didn't feel it, I got tired. So my body would start, instead of rotate, my body would slide a little bit. I get a little bit of slide going. I get a little bit too much side bend, and my rotation stops, face closes, I hit it left. Even though it feels good, I'm aiming up, I feel good over the shot. I'll make a good, hard, solid swing and the ball will go left into the trees. And I scratch my head. I felt like a great swing. What do I need to do? Open the face of the grip. You know, but now when I had that physical screen, he's like, here's why that happened. Your lats got tired, your glutes got tired. All of a sudden your rotation stops and you start to flip, which is what we're correcting in the offseason.
To piggyback off that, how often did you and Carl speak?
Oh God, so much.
Every week, pretty much, yeah.
All the time.
When I was reaching out.
Yeah.
He wasn't reaching out to me, I was reaching out to him.
Come on.
I know it's out there, but, you know, I'd see it at home, he'd send me video from the road. I put these videos together of his good swings, put some music that he likes to it and shoot it back to him. He likes to work out and meditate and do stuff, and you can sit there and just while he's doing that, kind of see a swing from last week's tournament just repeat over and over with some music.
To both of you guys, you just made two great points so far. Less is more.
Yeah.
But then the recovery aspect of shots, shot making, recovery out of the trees, so talking about potting. How would you take that to the PJ Golf professional and then say, when I was in Atlantic as an assistant, Ray Floyd joined as a member. He spent about 20 minutes hitting balls and in 2.5 hours throwing balls down in the ugliest situations you could ever imagine, bring it up and down. Is that something that you would preach to golf professionals to teach their students to do to learn how to recover better?
If you have the time to, yes,
Okay.
because it's one of those things where you know, listen, the average golfer is going to hit it in those situations more, right? Hitting it, but they don't want to practice the perfect shots. They want to, or they don't want to practice those shots. They want to practice the perfect ones. But if you, yeah, those are the shots that like Audrey Harrington's seen a shot out of the rough, out of the trees, out of a nasty lie thousands of times, right? As PGA pros, he's played a lot more golf, right? And been in those situations a lot more. So they might be new to us, they might be new to your students. So if you can introduce that to your students, that would be a huge help.
And I would take that point, I mean, we all teach a lot, 1 hour lessons. I don't need an hour for most of my students. So fortunately here at Purchase, our driving range is next to 15 green and certain areas. So 35, 40 minutes in, we're often calling myself and Patrick grabbing balls and saying, okay, let's go over to 15 green and hit some shots around the green. Let's go over to the chipping green and the putting green. And you break up that hour and you know, you want to, as we say, you want to give them a little of what they want, a lot of what they need. And these people, you know, these people being members, they just want to hit the ball well. They don't really care about scoring that much. But then they come in and say they shot 85 and their lesson didn't go well. So you're like,
Well, and then there's coaching, right? And there's
Yeah.
maintenance of your golf. There's maintenance of your swing, there's maintenance of your putting stroke, maintenance of your chipping stroke, maintenance of your ball play. And then there's coaching people like, okay, what do I do in this situation? How do I feel in this situation? You know, there's all that. And so the maintenance part is going to be, I did way too much maintenance. And I didn't do enough coaching to myself when I was out. Although towards the end of the season, I would say end of the season, my caddy Mark's been out for years. So all of our practice rounds would be, okay, hit a tee ball off the tee, you know, hit it into the green, and then we'd hit 50 to 100 shots around the green. That's what we ended up doing, you know, for the rest of the season. Now, I had to learn new techniques around the greens because I didn't know all these different types of grasses. Carl saw me out in California when I first came out here. I'm hitting pitch shots. I mean, I couldn't hit a pitch shot. I'm like, I can hit pitch shots. I'm not scared. I'm like, I was hitting thinning them, blading them, chunking them. Okay, so what the heck's going on? Well, your technique is wrong. You got to do this technique for this type of grass. You know, I got out there too in zoysia, tight zoysia, tight wet zoysia. I'm using Carl's technique that we used out in California, and I'm chunking them and blading them. And Alex Jacob, one of the tour players, comes up to me and goes, "What are you doing, bro?" And I said, "Well, I'm chunking and blading." He goes, "Well, why don't you try it this way?" He goes, "Open up the face on the wedge." He goes, "And don't use any wrist and just keep it really stiff with the face open. Just utilize the out of the bounce." And boom, here we go. It works perfectly. But then what do I have to do? I have to learn that technique and go and put it into play into the tournament.
This
So
week change
this
that
week,
upon the conditions that you're facing.
every week. But that's what I wrote down. And then I would write, I took my notes. Okay, this is what we do on Zoysia. This is what we do on high, whatever, wet, you know, wet Bermuda. This is what we do here. So now when I go out to those places, I have my notes. I look at it. I say, okay, this is the technique we use. There we go.
And I would say one of the strengths for Rob was because he did it in Texas with the flop shot on that par 5. I mean, you know, he'll try something in the morning, hit it 20 times and go right to the tournament, use it.
Why wouldn't you?
And he literally pulls it off. And he had a shot like I said, Texas, it was over the bumper between two palm trees. And I was like, oh, it's
That was all you
Big double shot doesn't come off and man, you hit it 4 feet, made birdie,
Yeah.
one at me. It's
But that's what it seems that these guys are really good at.
They're awesome.
The short game on the Champions Tour is very impressive, isn't it?
I got to play with Jose Maria in the PGA, Senior PGA Championship.
Golden hands.
And I watched him hit shots with a wedge from every line with a square face. He could hit it up, he could hit it this way, he could hit it anywhere with a square face. So he never opens the face. He hits a square face all the time, and he can hit it, it's magical.
Then he adjusts in swing.
He must. Or God came down and touched his hand.
If anybody out there knows Jose Maria or has the opportunity to talk to God, Rob wants to. So one of the things that you've alluded to during this was the willingness of your competitors to assist you. That's kind of enlightening to me. It's not what I would expect.
You know, I didn't either. But when I went out there, you know, the guys didn't, I'm not intimidated by this. I know I'm out there for a reason. I know I can play as well as they do. Maybe they sense that from me. So I was very open to, you know, someone came in the locker room, hi, Ron, the guy. Oh yeah, sure, Ron. You know, so it was a nice sort of like, and if they said something, I looked them in the eye and listened, because the wealth of knowledge that can come out of these guys, like when you play around with everything else, you're gonna listen to everything he says, right?
Ernie Els has won in 4 decades.
It's amazing, you know.
He's a class.
They're all great. Every one of those guys. So,
You talked a little bit about your body and training and stuff. You talk a little bit about like nutrition and hydration, playing that around.
yeah, it's so no alcohol in a week for hydration, obviously, except for Sundays when you get to but yeah, so I did the same thing, kind of what we've talked about, decarbing, 2-carbing. I always ate clean. I always did the you know, the salads and stuff, a lot of chicken. I always have almonds with me. I drink my athlete every day, which has helped me tremendously. I just eat right. They have 3 squares up. You get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So whatever you want, it's there for you. So you can kind of pick and choose what you like to eat. But I stay with the stuff that your body wants. Berries. I don't process food. Don't do a lot of. Although I do pastas on Thursday night. I'll eat a lot of pasta on Thursday night to give me, it's carbohydrate, right? So hydrates you and it gives you energy. I stay away from a lot of the red meats, although going through Iowa and like the northern, we're all out. I think I ate, you know, red meat like 12 days in a row. And then I couldn't poop for about 12 days in a row. So you want to make sure you don't do that. But it was so good that I had to. So that was kind of like when I veered off it. But you know, just like you gotta eat right. In the morning I'll eat I like an egg white omelet with some spinach in it. I'll have maybe a glass of juice. I quit coffee, and I'll have some yogurt and some fruit.
You said you quit coffee?
Yeah, no coffee anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I guess for lunch, I'll usually have salad with a bunch of chicken in it. And then dinner was always some sort of chicken based. I'm a big chicken eater. And a lot of vegetables, just clean vegetables. Stay away from desserts. I don't ever drink soft drinks. I do drink a lot of water. Don't drink the sports drinks except for athlete. And then just try to eat clean. That's, I guess, why I stay thin. You know?
So nothing different than you've always done.
Yeah, except for the athlete. That's what I've added over the last year. I don't think cholesterol ridiculous, which is, you know.
Although it's much easier to eat right when the food out there is amazing. When you walk in locker room and it's all set up and the dinner and, you know, so it's easier than when you're doing it yourself.
Oh, they do have a bunch of candy.
They have other stuff and kids and everything, but you walk in there, they've got it figured out that people want to eat healthy. And so they've got all the healthy options.
Just like all of our staff.
Yeah. That's like the staff. Normally, when you're traveling, it's hard to eat right, but they do make it on the tour much easier.
They do, and then if they don't give you a dinner or something like that, you'll go. I eat a lot of Olive Garden. I like the Olive Garden. Olive Garden for me, the chicken parm without the cheese.
But early in the season, they had a couple of steak dinners that we went to, and like they rented Ruth's Chris, and they just opened it up. It just said every tour player can come, bring your guests. And they had nice bottles of wine, and I mean, it was were fun dinners. We had, like I said, we ate with Cal one night, Cal came back in. They tell some great stories, so,
I bet he's not skipping dessert.
no,
No.
it was fun. So, really Andre, guys like that. Anyway, so,
But there are a lot of guys out there that do, you know, when you have all that, you know, you see peanuts and all sorts of, you know, Reese's peanut butter cups, you see all that stuff laid in the locker room. There are a lot of guys that just grab that stuff. I mean, you know, they call it the freshman 15, if you go out there and you eat all that stuff because it's just accessible. But you gotta just turn your nose and not do it.
So one of the things that you've had the opportunity is you've played with a lot of different players this year. Obviously, players who have played on tour for anywhere from 20 to 30 years, and now on Champions Tour. Who are some of the people that you played with that you totally enjoyed playing with, and this was an idea that Carl brought up, that you watched their rounds and you were totally impressed and learned something from them by just watching them play.
Everyone, I hate to say it, but every one of them. I can't really single out. I mean, you can always single out the big names,
Right.
but every person I want to see, from Paul Goitos to David Branshaw, who you guys know as a qualifier,
Right.
to Rocco Benini, to David Toms, every one of them. They all go about it. You know, David Toms, you wonder if the guy has a pulse. He takes a shot, he laughs, he just kind of goes about his business. Jose Rio Favo. Here's a guy who, struggles hitting off the tee a little bit, and, into the greens, but then you get him around the greens, it's like watching magic. I mean, he can get up and down from anywhere. It's insane. Just to watch their attitudes and how they went about things. No guy really I never see anybody get a step. There's a couple guys who get maybe a little bit frustrated, but it's gone in a second. There's no club slammers. There's no guys banging things. There's no guys swearing. It doesn't work that way because each shot means so much that if you get yourself into that adrenaline, whatever messed up state that frustration brings into you, you're going to mess up another shot. And look at, one shot, like I said, in my top 10s, and I'm in my top 36, one shot. Think about that. One shot out of all the shots that I hit this season.
How many shots in total? 210 plus rounds?
I mean,
Times 70. That's amazing.
it's amazing. It's one shot.
What about a guy like Alford who came out of nowhere? Obviously, had
So
an amazing year.
amazing year. He came out and he started the amazing year when he qualified. So he came out Monday qualified or Tuesday qualified for the event, they call it. He finished, I think he finished in the top 10, but didn't get in the next week. He had to Tuesday qualify again and won. And once he won, then he realized he could do it. And again, his trainer, my trainer, we talked a lot about Steve and what he does. And I've become, I guess close to Steve, but I've had enough conversations with Steven to where he would always just tell me, you just gotta let it go, Rob, just gotta let it go. I didn't understand what that meant until I started working with his trainer, where we talked about patterning your golf swing in training. I'm gonna be a lot more free this year because of what we're starting to do with my body. It's amazing things that he's had me doing in the past month and a half. What I've seen and how my body feels and how my hips feel and how my lats feel and how my glutes feel and how I can, it's just, when you work with the right things and you're patterning yourself,
Can you get
train.
into a little bit of the minutia of what you're talking about as far as patterning goes? What is
We're
that?
going to go into that. We're going to open the door and he's going to
Yeah.
show us.
I would say one of the things that we did talk about was Rob had an early round in Texas with Corey Pavin and Jim Furyk. And one of the things I noticed that we talked about after was anytime these guys hit it in the spot with a driver where they didn't have a really good shot at the green, they just hit it short of the green. They just hit it 10 yards short of the green and left themselves with this simple chip pitch, and they got it up and down like all the time.
They would either make it or
They just didn't hit a shot like I'm going to hit the green and then put themselves full high or long short sided. They just didn't ever really do that.
That's an interesting comment about that whole high because, from my greening experiences and teaching is when my students get the whole high or beyond, the probability of getting up and down decreases greatly.
Yep.
Because of slope, above the
Yep.
hole, you're gonna have more slope because you're downhill, harder to control spin and everything. And you had mentioned that in the previous seminar we did, that was one of the things that most impressed you, Carl, was that they don't get full high. And if they don't have the shot that they want to have, then they put themselves in a position to play for 4 and get out of town.
Right, and no chance they're making double. Like, they make a lot of birdies. He makes a lot of birdies.
He does.
It comes down to just don't make the bogeys, don't make the doubles. Keep, you know, as Tiger said, keep making deposits.
Well, the thing I
Don't make
mentioned about scoring
withdrawals.
there,
Easy, hard to do, but that's the strategy.
the top players on tour, when I say top, I'm talking about the top 5 or 6 players on tour, their scoring average is 70 or better. And so they're not, some of them aren't making as many birdies as you would, but they've learned how to eliminate bogeys, right? Because that 5 birdie, 4 bogey round is not as valuable.
5 birdies and a double and a bogey, whatever, and that's only 2 holes, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just,
Nick, you had a question?
Carl, you've been around Rob and in that orbit. What have you picked up from other swing coaches or players that you have had interactions with while you were obviously sitting around?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, one, you're not rebuilding a golf swing out there. You know, you're out trying to find a ball flight that he can go out with for 3 days and feel comfortable and play with. And a lot of times it's way less technical. We work a lot on basics, fundamentals, ball position, alignment, my setup where I want to be, tempo. We work on ball flights a lot, trying to work the ball. I think there's a lot of that. I think it's way more coaching out there than it is teaching. And I think a lot of the times that Rob and I spend, certainly on short game, but full swing wise, it was trying to work the ball a certain way and not so much changing a golf swing. As far as the other coaches,
there's not a lot.
there's not a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, there really are not a lot of guys. A lot of them are their wives. A lot of them are their caddies. You know, their caddies are standing there filming and their caddies are talking to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are their wives. You know, Steve Stricker's wife, they said, I watched them putt for an hour and a half. And I mean, it was a week he won, and I would have told he wasn't going to make it. I watched him putt for 15 minutes. He was so frustrated. He was missing 5-footers, but he stood there for an hour. By the time he was done, they had worked it out. Didn't look like the most fun interaction, you know, that he was struggling. And he turned it around and won that week. And it was impressive. I have tons of video of it because I sat there on the putting green on the ground and kept filming and he kept missing it. I was like, oh, this isn't good.
by the way, after he was super sick.
Yeah.
Stricker came,
Right.
he was really
He was
sick. Like,
really sick.
he didn't think he was gonna make it.
Yeah.
And then came back and started winning. So,
So did you guys, last year, at this time, you were talking about working the ball left to right.
Correct.
Did you use that a lot out there? And you were talking before about the left miss, so are you still working on the
I'm
left?
gonna, you know, with my leftness was my body.
Okay,
So now I can do what I want with the ball again, without really thinking about it. So yeah, that was what we were fighting. What Carl knows is, okay, you're not gonna get a left, just cut. So, I mean, I almost won the senior open with that cut. Played that cut all week, yeah. Just hit the aim as far left as I could, and just cutting across that thing. And it was just, you know, it just worked, so.
Let's asterisk that comment because that's what I want to see in the pattern. So I was looking at your stats here and I have a number of stats. So I think your stats were very impressive. You know, you went out there without any experience playing competitive golf at that level. You know, you had a championship here with the US Open or with the PGA, but nothing like you just had this past year. So you had 3 top 10 finishes, right? With the opportunity to win those finishes. You're very competitive and deep into the last round. You ended up 41st on the Schwab list,
Yeah.
right, which is your current standing and why your schedule will be as it is this year. But that was out of 201 players. There's 160 guys out there that wish they had your status.
Yeah,
That's impressive, given that most of those 160 are seasoned tour veterans. 4th in driving distance, averaging 290.
well, that's that. So that stat's a little skewed because they only measured 2 holes.
Right.
And there were a lot of times when on the holes they measured, I wasn't hitting drive. I did 3-wood or hybrid. So there were times where I hit 2 drives out there that were like really far, and they didn't get measured. So I don't know if that stat's actually perfect, but I'll go with it.
When you play my game off the tee, 290 is really far. You've got to be one of the Yeah, but I'm
Well
just
over
saying is,
300 on a lot of those ones.
no, I feel 10 yards worse.
He's
Could
right.
you, could you stop?
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna have to go practice more and get stronger. So 8th in ball striking, very impressive. 9th in greens in the regulation, hitting 7 out of every 10 greens. That was very impressive. 11th in total driving, 13th in the longest drives, 17th birdie or better conversion percentage. Those are outstanding stats for somebody that's never played competitive golf at that level in their first year. What's your take on this?
It's gonna improve this year. I have to improve.
Right.
And I got, that stuff kind of takes care of itself,
That's,
but the stuff that needs to improve is, and which I know.
so we
is
don't need to work as hard on full swing and do.
No, definitely. And again, I was working hard on my full swing because the inefficiencies that I didn't understand in my body. That's why I was working hard.
I think that's really interesting because, we have talked before about this and, I don't have a student that comes to me that realizes that part of the issue is their body. It's always their golf swing. It's always the full swing. It's always the drive. That's
This whole issue is the body.
right. And that's why I've been doing a lot of research with one of different trainers and that for a number of years and finding things out. And it was interesting for you to say that because you're playing at the highest level and you take care of yourself diet. You've been preparing for this for over 10 years to be up 20 years. All right. So, and you had a body deficiency, which you are now aware of that you weren't aware of before.
Yes, my lats tied into my glutes, tied into my hips are tight. My left hip doesn't fire like it should, although it has huge, all my range of motion is great. There's no arthritis, there's no things that are holding me back. It was how I patterned myself in my golf.
Right, which is, we want to leave a bunch of time to get into that. So, scrambling, talk to us about your scrambling. What are you doing differently? What are you going to do differently this season that you learned from last season's experience?
Yeah, so I won't put as much pressure on my ball strike. I'll work on my short game probably 80% more, and that's going to change my scrambling because I'll know the techniques that I need to take to each golf course, each predicament of type of grass.
Carl, you had talked earlier about hitting into green. So, from a coaching standpoint, which is more of what you do with Rob than structure, are we trying to avoid getting to the flag?
Well, I think he and his caddy definitely worked through that this year, which he mentioned, which is practice rounds. Way less time worrying about what you're hitting off the tee and what iron you're hitting. It was more of get around the green and be like, wow, don't miss it over here. If I miss it here, I'm in trouble. Right. By the way, flag's over here, like his caddy said, you got to play to the front right. I don't care how good ball club you have in your hand. Do not go at that flag. So I think he's going to learn more and more of that. And yeah, keeping it, greens are usually pitched back to front. So keeping it just short of the green and having those bunker shots and those chips and pitches from in front. Now, to be fair, we all know some of these courses, they put those false fronts, they get really soft, and then they grow the grass against you. So you can be 7 yards off the front with a really tough pitch. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys out there putt it. You played with Scott, not Scott McCarron, Scott Verplank. And Rob was, I think Rob hit the first 5 greens. He hit 1 green out of the first 5. He chipped in twice. He made the only putt. He was like 4 under through 5 holes. Rob was 1 or 2 under, and I'm watching this going, this guy, he hit it. He holed one with a hybrid in one of those bowls. We just putted, he putted a 3-wood up. We got done. I was like, Rob, did you see that? And normally when you're playing, you kind of like, yeah, I saw it, but. And then we sit at dinner and say, this guy missed the first 4 greens. He chipped in, he rolled it in with a putt, with a putter, and then he hit a 3-wood. And it's like, you're sitting there with a wedge. What if we just try this? So I think he's going to spend a lot more time doing that. And like anything, the more weapons, the more tools you have, better you play.
One of the stats that always impressed me was Jose Maria when he won his Masters. He shot 69 in his last round. He hit 7 greens. Yeah. How do you shoot 69 hitting 7 greens?
You use a wedge like he does.
Right. No, but that's one of the most impressive stats. And obviously, he won his jacket doing that. That just goes to show you the value of short game.
And then that was kind of something you said before, like you're talking to Stephen Alker, a coach says, you got to just let it go, right? Like, how hard is that as a player to say, let it go, right? And is that going to help you knowing that your short game is going to become better? Your body's in better shape. Is that kind of mentally preparing you to get to that?
I know what it means. I didn't know what it means,
Yeah.
what it meant when he said it, because I did let it go. And when I let it go, especially towards the end of the round or end of the tournament, it would go left. And I was like, well, why? I'm letting it go. I don't feel tired. I'm not standing for home. Like I have a clear view of what I'm trying to do. But yet my body was not allowing me to do that. So he worked, and now that I understand what Tyson and what he said, which was, okay, you've got to train your body to actually work that way. So then when you go out there, you can just let it go. Now I understand. So yeah, it's gonna be different.
So Rob, one of the things that you posted last year, which I took a snapshot of, is Dr. Rivera
Oh, yes.
and your feet.
Thank you.
And so you've been working with Dr. Rivera for some time because you walk a lot. And so what have you done with Dr. Rivera?
She has just given me the insoles that just keep my body and my hips and my body in alignment. And how you walk is very important. Some people roll in, some people roll out, some people, whatever it is, I'm not put down. I know that for me, my feet used to roll in a little bit, and I trained really hard to actually keep my knees wide. Here's a good thing to tell you guys about training, to keep my knees wide when I was training, and I'll actually roll out on my outer side foot so my big toe wasn't engaged. So that's just as bad as rolling in. You can roll out too much or you can roll in too much. What you want to do is you want to have that stable base with all your feet and all your toes on the ground, especially when you work, especially in the golf swing. You can't allow any sort of roll. If you have any roll, in any direction, it's a deficiency in your golf swing. So what she does is she gets my insoles set up just to keep my feet, right underneath my knees, right underneath my hips, and it just takes all the pain off my legs and my hips.
So in addition to your playing career, you're much better off day to day because you have everything aligned in your skate, and that's your platform.
Yes,
That's what you're working on.
I try to do everything now in my life to get the ball in the hole and as much strokes as possible. That's like the main focus, which is what changed when I left the job. And it took me a good 4 or 5 months to really understand it. Oh my gosh, I'm not answering this email. I don't have to go to staff meeting. I don't have to hire an assistant. It was all about, okay, and you do this for 31 years, guys. You're trained. It's like you're patterning yourself to do that. Now, I think over the past 4 or 5 months, I've gotten to the point where I understand that it's a very selfish game. So it's truly all about me. People say it that way, but if I can get the ball in the hole, at least the amount of strokes possible, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to spend more time out there. My family's going to have a better life, and I'll have a better life because I'll just be free of all the other distractions.
And we'll have a better life because we're getting all this information from you
100%.
without any of the sit-ups, of the curls, of the stretching. Good deal for all of us. Thank
It's
you.
all good.
We appreciate it. So you talked about Tyson Marasica,
Yep.
who is Stephen Alker's. So I think that was a really good idea, right? Let's go to one of the best out there.
Yeah.
And so if you would, and if we need to, we can move some things here, but can you start talking about and showing and demonstrating for all of us and everybody out in Zoom world, some of this patterning that you're talking about and your particular issues, what you've been doing to address those issues and how that's fitting into your
Sure.
movements.
Yeah. So, I travel with a few things that, I always travel with now, which is, this is my mobile foam roller, which everybody knows, and this is great. It's from Brazen, which just pops out. There's your foam roller, right? Which is really cool. It breaks down. It's right in your backpack, so I use that daily. And then I've got the bands that I always travel. Now the PGA Tour is great because we have a trailer and they have all this stuff in there. But I've got this band, which I use a lot for stability. And we'll get into some of the exercises, tied into the wall, more stability stuff. These are all just different, poundage. Some are 10, some are 20, some are 30, depending what you're trying to do. And then, of course, some of the most important ones are the ones that you wrap around your legs and then around your arms when you're training to just keep you stable and keep your feet on the ground. The biggest move that Tyson and I kind of have been working on is my body, my hips would my body would go this way, and I would slide, okay? And when I slide, I didn't too much side bend, and when you have too much side bend, you're not rotating, so the club is gonna pass you, it's gonna, and there's my left shot. Right? So we've worked a lot on, what I'll do is I'll have a band attached to a wall here, I'll get myself stretched out, okay? And then I'll get into my rotated position, okay, which is this, now my glutes engaged, okay? I'll have another band into the wall, and sometimes it depends where you're putting the bands. You can put the bands this direction, you can put the bands coming in from back of you to hold you, or you can put the bands coming in front of you. And then you're just giving yourself, with another band, you're giving yourself this sort of move. So now there's no early extension, you're into your glute and you're actually, holding on to, with the bands, you're holding on to your posture. So then when you get into your swing, you're able to rotate a lot more, which for me was huge because I was a slider and a big side bend. What Carl noticed when we first started, was the ball was way forward, now it's way in back, right? I overdid what my coach Tom Wilson had given me for years. So we've got a lot more stacked on top of the ball. And, my other coach, Bill Davis, we've got my right hip rotating back down, which I can. And then we got my left hip rotating a lot more this way. I'm working a lot more this way than I have done. And everybody out there, when I was watching it, the PGA brain kicked in, everybody rotates. There's not a lot of sliders out there. You just don't see it in all the girls. You look at Nelly Corda sisters, everybody rotates. You see a lot of actually hips backing up to rotate when they're hitting shots, and it just takes luck because the face doesn't close. So you might hit it right, but you might.
One of the things that I find when talking to students is there's been so much getting onto your left side in YouTube, in instruction articles, getting off your backside, and it seems to be well overplayed. Would you say that that's accurate based on your experiences, and you're much more rotational today than you ever have been?
100%. I was the guy who used to teach it. I was the guy who used to teach, get off, get all the way facing this way, which you don't need to. I mean, you can rotate and get that way.
So you're moving your pressures with rotation.
100%. It's just the game changer. It's going to make my ball striking a lot more consistent. My ball flight's already starting to straighten out more. It's falling a little right or falling a little left. My big misses are gone.
And how's it affected your wedge game?
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. The wedge game, especially now around the greens. So towards the end of the season as well, I would hit good drives down the middle of the fairway. I'd have a wedge in my hand and I'd hit it flat. And I'd turn around to my caddy and he'd be like, I just look at it. Stephen Ames is the guy who said to me, he goes, you like to work under the shot a lot. And I was like, yeah, how do you fix it? He's well, you just don't work under it. But so what I've learned now is that, this is the move that will allow you to work on, which is just this going back. And I'm not worried so much about getting to my left side. I just worry about rotating. And then if I'm hitting a little behind it, okay, it's generally going to be your setup. You're probably a little bit too much this way. Just get a little bit more here, and you can rotate because that brings the bottom of the rock up.
Right.
So.
And have you changed driver position with this inability to rotate better?
Yeah, everything's more back in my stance. When I say back, it's just not as far forward.
So where would you play? What are you doing? Like you and Carl had talked about, playing that little cut, that little bleeder left to right. And Carl's smiling. He likes it.
Rob likes it.
Control.
Yeah, when he first would get me in here and get me on the machine, I came, my weeks off, I'd come and I'd work with him. He constantly was trying to get my ball position back, ball position back, ball position back. And for a guy who likes to slide, the ball position back, it just drove me crazy. I was like, how the heck do you hit the ball? Try to stand over it. And my brain was saying, there's no chance you have hitting that ball straight because I have this, right? But now with the rotation, oh my goodness, you're so much more centered. So you can just hit the ball straight and it doesn't matter. It's where it's supposed to be, which is farther back for me.
Right.
Again, I started, Carl knows my pattern. I was this guy. Tom Wilson, my coach, I started here. This is where I started because I put the club as a really small kid up underneath my shoulder like this. And I would pick, this is how I learned how to play golf. Okay. And I played a big portion of my career, this way. So, Tom Wilson was trying to get me on top of it, but over time he got me, I was here. So I started slinging hooking. sling hooks. And I won a bunch of tournaments in the section because I knew all the tournaments. I could sling it with the best of them.
Right.
But then when I got out there, you play Firestone, you can't sling hook it. If you sling hook it, you're gonna shoot a million. So thank God Carl taught me how to cut it. And I actually got an 11th place finish there in senior players. Because I could fly.
You can manage your tee shot.
Yeah, which by the way is one of the greatest golf courses. Pretty awesome.
Was there a big change in launch when we moved the ball position back with the driver?
So there was initially, because I still had that little bit of slide move, so the ball was coming out low. But now that I'm rotating nice, it's just nice. It's right where it needs to be. But yeah, get the ball back. I'm like, how do I get it off the ground? When you slide, how do you get it off the ground with the ball back? And I didn't understand how to rotate. I was okay. I felt like I was backing out of it. You obviously want to do that. You want to rotate into that glute as hard as you can. So, and then also obviously what that does is so great, just staying in the posture. Look at my butt so far back and all this room, right, to just do whatever I want to do with focus, which is great.
Does it feel like, when you do your rotation, so you feel like your pressures are obviously moving some right to your left side?
Yep.
But the way you're talking, I'm getting the impression that you feel like you're backing up a little bit with your upper half, or not moving left.
Yeah,
Same
just not moving left as much. And again, in the patterns in the past, I was this way, and my head would go forward and down a little bit. I moved a lot. And it's crazy. I played so good with that move, to be honest with you. But I would play good in spurts, and that's what I realized this season. I have a good tournament, and all of a sudden I would have a good tournament.
But there were certain shots, that tight 3/4 wedge shot up a wet lot, with the head moving and then kind of diving down. So it became jumpy.
Really hard.
And
I
so,
understand all those things going in an opportunity, raising your hand, you're like, I'm just getting something green. Yeah, which is scary. I mean, at that level, you're standing there going, this is like crazy how do I do this? But now it doesn't happen, which is cool. But
So you don't have the fear of that shot anymore.
Nope.
That's
Especially
gotta be wonderful for your head.
Oh, yes, nice. Thank you, Dad.
And so you were talking about some of the stuff in your upper body that was tight.
Yeah, so a couple of things he gave me to do just kind of every day. Things that we do is, my lats got really tight, so we have been doing things like, a lot of TPI stuff where you're just, you're getting extensions and then just kind of working and holding muscles to get all those muscles engaged. This is the sort of things that I have a hard time doing. When I first tried to do that, I could hardly lift my arms. When I got down in this position, I couldn't pull my arm off the ground. It's like, well, he's like, lift your arm off the ground. I can't. It's like, how do you lift your arm? You're supposed to do it. I lift it off the ground.
And that's all that tightness.
It's all that tightness.
Shoulder.
Yeah, which, when you get up to the top of your swing, and you start to get, physically tired, that ties into your glutes, ties into your lower back. And all of a sudden, your body's rotate, you slide, and the face closes, at least for me.
So one of the things that you talked to me about last night was that, your arrival here this morning. For those of you who are out in Zoom land still in bed, what did you accomplish this morning with your golf game?
Yeah, so I worked out already with Tyson, 8 o'clock. He's great. He's in Arizona. So
Right, up our time.
yeah, he gets there at 6 for me, and we did an hour workout. And, I had a nice breakfast with my wife for about 3 minutes, and then jumped in the shower and came over.
And then raced over here. So you've already got, an hour plus in on your day.
A little more, because I woke up this morning, we wrote some things down, texted Carl a little bit. I get up early. I'm an early riser.
And you like to write things down. We're gonna have this published someday. Rob Labritz's Diaries on Tour.
There's we're writing some stuff down. We got a bunch of notes.
we talked about that early in the season, if you play a good round, go home and write it down.
Right.
If you had some feeling that was really working, make sure you go home and write that down, because it's fleeting. We know this game is fleeting, so you got to write it down, reread it, review it.
I mean, so many notes over the
Yeah.
past. And the great thing about this is you got this little notebook, and all of a sudden you got your notes, and it's just pages and pages and pages of just everything that I've learned from every tournament, from every everything that I'm thinking, I'll just write it down and label it, and then I can go back and check it out. It's really cool.
So you've been a sponge out on tour
It's been so much fun.
from the inside of the ropes.
It's awesome.
You seem very energized.
Yeah.
But you always are, right? But you seem, Rob's got a lot of energy, he always has, and you're always so willing to share. It's just like, I sense that there's a calmness about your energy compared to the past.
It's funny.
You just seem very self-assured. We know you're gonna win this. You know you're gonna.
I do. It's funny that you say that. I'll be open about this. I have a great job. I had the greatest job, like my owners and members and my team.
Right.
Just great. And I was happy, but I was never really happy. I always knew that there was something more.
Right.
And when I'll get choked up because I just think about it.
It's all right, I cry all the time. I think it's good.
Yeah, it is. The CBS special. I realize where I'm supposed to be. And I'm supposed to be out there. I'm supposed to be doing this. And I'm supposed to be sharing what I've learned with you guys. Because our two worlds are colliding. So, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm gonna win. There's gonna be some cool things coming up in the next 5 to 6 years. And there's gonna be a lot of cool things to share.
One of the things that you talked to me about, which I don't even know if you remember saying, but you said, for the next 15 years.
I don't, sitting back.
So you already see yourself as a tour veteran 15 years from
I don't know if I want to do it that way. I think if I could do a Stephen Alford thing, make a bunch of money in the next 5, 6, 7, or 8 years. I'd like to spend some time with my family. My family suffered enough with my dedication to my job and my sport. And they've been taking it like champions. And it's time for me to give back to them. So I want to work my tail off the next 5 to 6 years and then see where it goes. Obviously, if I keep winning, it's hard to turn that down. But I want to put my family first for once because they've suffered.
That's very nice. That's why I think you're gonna have a sensation here. You're very well grounded in what's important to you. And along with your son who's in college now, and you have 2 little girls who are what, 3 and 5?
9 and 2.
9 and 2, she's 9 already. Right. So there's a lot of little girl, and you got to be the father, right? Is that the hardest part, is being away from the kids and your wife?
Yeah, because when the 2-year-old, I would travel. Sometimes I was gone for 4 weeks in a row. We'd be gone for a month. Right? Thank God for FaceTime. But you come home, and I would never be timid when I would go to my daughter. I'd go right in, I'd pick her up, and I'd pick her. Hey, what are you doing? She kind of look at me.
Who are you?
She'd give me that look, but then all of a sudden you see that smile because she knows it. But it's like I've been home now since the middle of November, and I've developed this bond with them again, which has just been amazing. I mean, it's a bond I haven't had yet with any of my children, which is part of the job.
And your 9-year-old, her name is Ryan. So Ryan gets to see you on TV. That must be really cool for her.
Ryan, yeah, she loves it. She thinks it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the coolest thing. I love student things.
But every time I come home, there's probably 10 to 12 8x11 welcome home daddy, welcome home daddy. You know, like lined across the hallways as I come in with all the things that she drew. She put them in the Xerox copier, she puts them up, and then as soon as I come home, no matter what time she'll come running down and just give me a big hug, and she gives me to squeeze that.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. And your wife is the same. She holds everything together.
Yeah, I don't have her, I couldn't be able to do it.
No, your support team's amazing. Your sponsors, you have a number of really good sponsors that seem to be very supportive of all your efforts, and you're repaying them with your good play.
Yep, and some appearances, and they're just good people. They're people who have reached good things in their life, and they want to give back, and they're giving back to help me, and that's why I turn around and do the same thing for everybody else.
Now, we decided where we're going to win yet, or is that person?
We're going to win at the course that fits us the best, but we're going to try to win every week. We're going to go out there with the mindset I can win every week. We're going to start, if I get my start in Morocco, we're going to win Morocco.
Of course, he knows. Of
Yeah,
course, you've actually already won.
I did, that's
You
true.
beat Heath and I.
Wow. Are you gonna let this go?
I don't know from his course.
Top tricks of technology.
Exactly.
Heath, I think that's very nice. Did
It's a.
you accept the loss and still want to help? Charles?
Yeah.
Very kind.
Absolutely.
Friendship goes deeper.
Apparently it does. You're a giver. And so, Florida courses,
Yes.
you play well in Florida.
Grew up
Obviously.
27 years.
Right, you were a medalist at the tour qualifying school. Your decision not to go back to tour qualifying school is based on what?
Based on two things. Based on, I kind of missed the deadline, which is one. And then, but that being said, I didn't understand the deadline was before my second playoff. Which I figured, you know, and all normalcy, you kind of figure after your second playoff event, you figure out where you sit, and then, okay, well, I need to go to Q school now. Now, that being said, after I didn't go to Q school, I got a great call from Paul Stankowski. And Paul is one spot behind me on the money list. And he was going to go to Q school as well. And Paul said, he called me on Thanksgiving, he said, happy Thanksgiving. And he said, I've got some good news for you. And I said, well, I'm all ears. He goes, I think we're going to get, I did research on the last 5 years, all the guys that finished from 36 or 37 to 45. And he goes, and all the guys that were in that position played anywhere between 20 to 26 events.
How many total events next year?
27, 26.
Okay, so almost all.
Almost all. So he said, I just withdrew from Q school. He said it. He goes, I withdrew from Q school. And he goes, and I know that we're going to play in a bunch of events. So, and then a few other tour players reached out to me. They said, listen, and even before the playoffs started, you know, my caddy, a few other tour players came up to me and said, listen, you played well enough this year. You're going to play a bunch of events next year. And to be
Because
honest,
of your status in 41st.
yeah, because of where I finished.
Now, are there sponsors exemptions on champions?
Yes, yes.
All right, and so I would think that you were very, very much a candidate if you need to be for that because of how engaging you are and how you engage the crowds and share your videos.
I have one in Charlotte if I need it, which kind of starts off the season,
All right,
which is right after Morocco.
so you know you're in that field.
I'm in that field, and if I get in the field on my number anyway, at least that sponsor might goes to somebody else that can change your life as well.
And I would think this downtime from not being involved in that qualifying has been very good for you, for your wife, children, and to spend some time with Carl, doing your work with Tyson. Right? So you had talked about patterning before, right? So you're patterning things in your workouts to simulate your golf motion.
Yes.
Is that correct? And could you share some of that with us?
Yeah, I mean, we gotta get some of those bands kind of attached. I just showed you one, which is kind of a big one. You know, for me, it's, you know, here's my hips were very deficient. My left hip didn't work very well. You know, we do a lot of things that.
And you found this out through screening.
Through screening, yeah. So certain things like this where, you know, you want separation in your body, you want separation in your swing from your lower body to your upper body. So when you do drills like, you know, certain things like this, where this goes first and then you bring this around, right? And this is my weak side, and then going up, right?
Right.
And then you gotta go back and you gotta do the opposite, right? But certain things just to make your,
So you're patterning golf motion on your glutes.
on my glutes, on my core, a lot of band work. The band work is the best because you can have resistance.
Right.
So, you know, the best thing is what Tyson likes me to do is, especially with them. Yeah. So, you know, when you have something like this,
Now this is trust.
yeah, this one's. So you have things like, you know, you're going to do a lot of, you know, just a lot of patterning where it comes to like, see, like this is like Carl wants to pull me forward. But if you get into this motion, you get into this side, and you can go through and you can feel like, I mean, my entire body is engaged. So this is patterning what I want to feel going through. Now, when I first started this, I did this, right? But now it's rotation, and then you have holding the stretch and stretching, right? You do it on both sides. That's probably one of the biggest moves that I've learned that we do every day, because that's the golf swing. That's the golf swing.
When's the last time you hit one left?
I don't know. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while.
Good tour player, Anson.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a while.
So you're very confident that that left is learning to get out of the game?
I hit balls yesterday over at Glen Arbor and I didn't hit many shots left. If anything, the ball just fell to the right. And the harder I try to rotate through the ball, the straighter it goes. And if I get a little lazy with the rotation, I can hit it left. And then for me now, it's like Carl said, it's all about, getting the club to go back. If I want to hit a draw, it goes back a little bit more in. If I want to hit it straight, it goes back a little straighter. If I want to hit it, a little cut, just goes back a little bit more on the outside. It's very minute, but that makes my ball flight just do what I need to, which is really cool.
All right, so your body's a much different body in 23 than in 22.
100%.
And you see a big difference?
No question about it, it moves different. And I'm a huge believer in the static hold positions. I think good players do that. It's not just about taking practice swings, but like Rob did there, he got there and it's just hold it for a
Because
while.
you're training your brain's motor
Yeah,
power.
you're training a motor pattern. I think static positions work. I mean, I watched a lot of guys out there, but I got a lot of video. They go to the top and they stand there and they hold it and they hold and then they go back. And I think it lets the brain catch up.
Training.
Yeah.
Right, because everything comes out of the brain for
Yeah.
pattern.
And also the biggest thing that Carl told me was to just take my time with my backswing. Let everything just set. I would get into fast situations where I go a little faster, and you don't give your brain time enough to actually make the proper move. If you get fast in your backswing, you're gonna be fast in your downswing in some part, and it's gonna lead to you not having control of the face. So the slower that I go with my backswing, the farther and straighter I hit it now, which is hard because I want to rip that back.
Do you hit it hard when you're playing?
Oh yeah.
He likes to hit it hard. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
He likes hitting it hard.
With balance.
No, within reason.
And some of the things like you grab this again. So here's another thing. So eccentrically, you want to be able to slow your body down, right? So if I stand and I give a lot of tension, I can't. I'll go in front of my I can't bring this line here. What you want to do is you want to get to the point where this is the band for it, but you want to bring it up to a point to where you have to help it up and then eccentrically bring it down slowly. Okay, keeping your body. So you want to help it up, right? Eccentric, because this is your braking system, right? So it's not about getting it this way, right? Not about pulling it back, but it's about trying to slow yourself down from that straight position. And your shoulders in a good position, and then slowly bring it down because that's your braking system. You can do that with a lot of bands. You can put things around your legs. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do, for slowing your body down. Right. So things like this, getting your glutes engaged, right? Just little things that you do every week that you're on tour to make sure that, when you're doing this, you're first of all, you're doing it right, you're doing it slow, and you're doing it with balance, right? But little things like, it doesn't have to be a big move. I'm not trying to keep my foot back. I'm trying to get my glute engaged. And then you're trying to control all that motion. And that works right into your golf swing to speeding up the song.
You appear to have more appreciation for your body today than you've ever. And what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
Or not.
When you rely on it, I have to rely on it. Can't be hurt. If I'm hurt, I'm not gonna make money. I mean, it's
It's
ultimately
also exhausting. 7 rounds of golf. 7 rounds of golf and then get on the plane and do it again the next week. It's exhausting. Your body's got to
That's a
be in
good
shape.
point. From your standpoint as a coach now, Rob, you have the caddy now that you're gonna have the 23 season
Yes.
without injury to him or anything happening, right? So how many caddies have you had?
I went through 3 last year.
Right? And what is it that you feel your caddy now, and you're obviously very happy with your caddy because you're going to be a team this season. What is it the caddy does for you that you feel he needs to do? Like, what are your expectations for your caddy? Not only when you're practicing and playing your practice rounds, but I would think most importantly, when you're in your competitive rounds.
He keeps me calm. He's never wrong on numbers. He made one mistake last year. In one of the tournaments, I forget which event I was. It was first hole par 5. I went for the green in 2, and I hit it about 20 yards over the green. As we're walking up to the green, I said, "Maybe I can't really hit the ball that far." And as whatever, and I didn't get up and down, I made par, and, you know, a hole you're supposed to reach it to. And as we're walking off the green, he says, Pop, he goes, I gotta tell you something. I said, what? He goes, I made a mistake. He goes, I don't want you to think you're hitting that club that far. He goes, I made a mistake. He goes, I was 15 yards off. That was the only time he made a mistake. He's really good with numbers. So I can, you know, if he says it's 123 to the front, 130 to the hole, and 145 to the back, I know that those numbers are right. And then he brings up just a wealth. He's been out there for 30 years. He's got for guys, so many guys out there, Michael Allen, Lee Trevino, to, you know, to just guys that are, you know, Jeff Slow, so many guys.
So he's also relaxed and fun.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, you know, you've got to have a caddy that matches your personality to some degree, or somebody that at least feeds off of you. And I think Rob likes having fun. He needs a caddy that's going to be fun and enjoy that experience. And then also somebody can notice that he's getting amped up and relaxed and say, give me that club, don't hold the club. You know,
Rob
stuff
gets
like
amped
that.
up.
Rob gets amped up,
No.
yeah.
I don't believe that.
My second caddy, you know, Van Silver.
Yeah,
Van was
really
great.
good.
He's so good with numbers as well. And we actually made the cut in the PGA Championship 2010 together. So when my first caddy on Todd, and you guys, Todd had some hearing issues, which I tried to get him to clear up in the past couple of years. He kind of fought me on it and got to the point where he couldn't hear me. So I was saying things 5 or 6 times, which is why we had to split ways. Because out there, I don't want to say things 5 or 6 times, especially loud enough for other people to hear. And I love Todd like a brother. Yeah, he's still one of my best friends. He understands why we split. It's fine. But, you know, Van, after our third, we finished 5th, our first event together. It was great. And then the second event and third event, you know, we noticed that, you know, he's 67, he was 67. So he had this, he didn't have much energy. And I'm kind of running around, right? So after that, I think it was the disparity. He came to me and goes, bro, he goes, I need to take some time. And he goes, and I'm not going to. He goes, you know, if I was 50, he goes, we'd have a great time. He goes, but I'm not. And he goes, and you have this energy, and my energy, they just don't match. He goes, so I'm doing you a disservice by not.
That's very professional.
He's the man. For him to say that, and you know, Van still,
He took himself off your back.
he did. And
I just have a lot of respect for
I
him,
do too.
to be honest.
he was awesome. And again, good friend.
Right.
No one's rooting harder than him out there.
No, you're in this together.
Yeah.
You're knee deep with the caddy. So your current caddy is very, very, very good with his numbers, and he realizes you and when he needs to kind of jump in and just kind of slow the process a little.
He's always there 2 to 3 hours before I get to the golf course. He's already mapped it out. He's got my parking spot. He's usually sitting in my parking spot with the clubs, kind of ready to go. He tells me the lay of the land. He's been to every clubhouse. So he says, okay, here's where you go. Here's what you do. There's this, you got tickets. He's just like, he's like my advisor.
He's your manager.
He's my manager.
On
He's
course,
awesome.
off course.
He's great.
Clubhouse manager.
The only drawback is Mark, he's a smoker. And that's the only drawback. And when we're out there, he's gotten really good at kind of hiding it and keeping it away from me. But I hate smoking. And he's trying to cut it down. But that's the only drawback.
Well, he's got thousands of reasons to get that under control.
So
So no, that's great though. That's you find somebody to match your personality, and which is really good.
and I've talked to him.
And Carl, your expectations going forward for this season?
Yeah, I there's no doubt. I think Rob's going to win. I think Rob's got a really good chance. I think once he wins, the floodgates are definitely going to open. My expectations are he's going to go out and work really hard. He's going to be in the best shape of most of the guys out there. I don't think you're going to find a guy that's in better shape. I think you're going to find that Rob's going to work as hard or harder than everybody else. But he's going to work smart. You know, when I say work hard, I mean he's going to put the time in, and he's going to put the necessary time in. He's going to work smart. I think his short game's going to get better for all the reasons we talked about. He knows the grasses, he knows the shots. I think putting is going to continue to get better out there. It's hard. People don't realize you change grasses every week. You go to a different course. The speeds change, the firmness. It's hard. It's really hard to be as good as they are. People don't realize how good these guys are. They're shooting 17 under for 3 rounds of golf. I mean,
You can't
it's
make
pretty
any
low.
pickups on the championship.
No.
can you?
The good news is he's got a lot of great birdie opportunities. He knows the course is now way better. There's no doubt. He'll tell you he stood on holes that are uncomfortable. And this year they're not going to be uncomfortable. because he's gonna have 4 or 5 tee shots or more on that hole, and he's gonna have good memories.
Rob, would you say the challenge each week isn't necessarily the golf course, but the conditions that changed from last week as opposed to, 2 weeks ago? So like Carl mentioned, you're always playing different grasses. Does that affect you equipment wise?
Not so much equipment wise, maybe the bunkers, but Cuppy, our Titleist guy's out there, so he can build me a wedge in 10 minutes if we need to change balances or something like that. So it's we have access to that, which is huge, but it's more the techniques that, I was in Calgary and I'm hitting bunker shots and I'm hitting them okay and I'm getting them out. Carl's a great bunker player, but we were using Carl's technique on how to, get them out of the bunker and they're landing on the green, they're rolling out. I can't get it tight, can't get it up in the air. And David Frost comes over to me and goes, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" And I said, "I'm practicing my bunker shot." He goes, "Not that way." That's another thing, right? So he goes, "You get in here and I'll show you this way." He goes, "You get there, get that grip in there, get that left hand down there really, really strong. Open that face, get that left hand there really strong. Lean into that left side." And he goes, "I want to see just straight wrist up and I want to see you pop down in that thing." Right? So sure enough, I get left side grip on it really strong. Ball comes up, stops. I was like, "There you go."
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, David. And you just had me some nice wines. Thank you.
Sunday only wine, Sunday night only.
Or dry January.
And Carl, you had a comment?
Yeah, no, I just think the short game's gonna, you went through the ball striking. He's gonna keep getting better at the ball striking, no question about it. I think the short game's gonna be the factor that's gonna come down to the win and mentally, right? So, we were talking about all the work that he's doing with bands and things. I mean, I also spent time out there and I watched Darren Clark, not the best of shapes. John Daly, not the best shape. These guys go out and shoot 67 too, or lower. Darren Clark won this year, and watching him walk up to the green, I wasn't sure he was going to make it, right? But then he hits a beautiful shot, 2 putts from 70 feet when he won the Senior British. He put it from like really far.
His performance
that came
at
down
Senior
here.
British was phenomenal.
Phenomenal, right? And so
Difficult.
I think that's where he's going to get stronger. Is that what we've talked about is the winning mindset, and one of the things that Rob and I talked about, which is learning to go low. Now I say learning to go low because when you play through the Met section, you shoot 67, 68, you've gone low. Our courses are hard, but you go out there and, not the courses aren't 7,000 yards, but these guys are shooting 62, 63. And so my point to Rob for the win is 1 round. When you get it going, you just got to recognize what he's talking about letting it go is now what I think he's going to be able to do. When you're hitting it well and the hole looks this big, you got to let it go. And now those are the days you got to go low. And then, 1 low round, a couple rounds at 68, and you win. Because that's kind of how it goes. You got to throw 1 round where you're just going low.
65 or better.
65 or better.
Yeah, 65 or better.
And when you're hitting it well, and you're putting it well, the only thing that stops you is you. Because that day you have. And you got to learn just to get out of your own way and just let it go.
Now, you talked about letting it go, like you thought you knew how to let it go, but now you know how to let it go.
Well, I knew how to let it go, but I didn't know why when I let it go, it was giving me these funky shots because I'm letting it go. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
But that was a physical condition that created a swing.
Which I didn't understand. Now I get, which is just something that you learn from playing rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of golf and having another set of eyes. Like Tyson watched me play a bunch of holes. He's like, "Here, dude." He's like, here's why you do this. When we got together, we talked a lot before we got together, and it made a lot of sense to me. So I was like, let's hear you more.
That must have been a real aha moment.
It was amazing. I mean,
But even more so when you found out that he was right.
100%. I mean, you can't. I'm so excited to get out there this season.
Now, I could sense it in your email last night. I felt the excitement.
Yeah, I mean,
When is your first time?
Morocco right now.
What's the date?
The end of the first week in February.
Oh,
Yeah, so a couple weeks.
Yeah, the Chubbs.
Couple
Couple
Chubbs
weeks
we
after
got.
that.
Yep.
Nick,
But
you
it's
have a
interesting
question.
too, by the way, all the work he's putting in is for Sunday afternoon. Right? Think about how much we talk about, like he's fresh on Friday, feeling good on Saturday morning, but it's that all this work is so Sunday, last round, going into that 50, 51st, second, third, fourth hole under pressure.
Now,
That's
you
when
feeling
the
more
body-
fit with Rob's work?
What's that?
Are you feeling more fit?
Oh, yeah. It's motivating.
Osmosis.
I wouldn't say it's fun being on the road with him because I'm still drinking coffee, lots of it. And,
Not after today.
no, that's not. Yeah, but it's fun. You go on tour and he gets up early in the morning, he's working out, I'm having a cup of coffee, returning emails, stressing about work, and he's on the ground sweating.
You had emailed me from the tour about a situation I had asked you about with Rob. And you were sitting at your computer saying, I'm sitting here drinking coffee, watching Rob work out.
On the floor, yeah. So it's fun, and it is motivating, and I am definitely working out harder than I did, 12 months ago.
So you're still competing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so this must be a really good experience from you as a player standpoint to see what Rob puts into it and shows you what you need to do a little more of. It helps your game.
No question. I mean, how can it not? Anytime you're out on tour, anytime you're watching the best players of the world, as a PGA professional, as a golfer, you're going to learn something.
So John Schmoll should be concerned about you this season.
And yes.
That's why I'm here.
You have to run up, John. Yes, Nick.
With our crazy schedules, day in and day out, the limited time and resources we have to practice, knowing now what you know, playing on the level that is obviously a lot different than what we're accustomed to. What would you do differently as a club professional with the time that you do have to practice relative to what probably arguably were doing perfect?
Yeah, so that's another good question. It's hard to say because the job entails so much, right? From the meetings to the hirings to the, managing your team, all that takes so much mental energy. If you can find the mental energy to do a workout in the morning, do a workout daily, and if you can find an hour or two or whatever it is to do your short game work or your full swing work daily, you have to do it every day. You can't say I'm going to do this 3 times a week. Regardless of what I did as a PGA pro, I still worked on my body and my golf game every day. I didn't miss a day. I didn't take a day off.
I'll just add too, one thing that Rob was really good at prior to this, and I think hopefully there's not a lot of members watching this, but we need to train our members that I'm going to be on the range hitting golf balls and I'm working on my game, and you're not to come up and ask me about your head cover or if you're in an event, right? So Rob would go to Glen Harbor and he'd hit balls and we'd work on the green. I think it's important for everybody to know if you can establish at your club that there are times where I'm actually working on my game, I'm putting, I'm chipping, and I'm practicing, and I want my whole staff to do it, and leave us alone for this 1 hour so I can get my work done, and then I'll come work on you. And I think that's what, he was already doing it, but I see in the club world, you hit balls, the guy comes over and you stop what you're doing, you spend 30 minutes, as opposed to saying, hey man, can I get back to you? Because I got a tournament next week, I'm trying to get some work done. And just say nicely, and establish with your assistants. If you go to the range and hit balls, it's okay. Let everybody know that we're golf professionals and we too are going to practice.
But when you do it, don't pick the first spot.
Yeah.
Pick the spot on the far side of the range, right?
Yeah.
And work on your game. If you can. Listen, there's jobs you can't do.
There are jobs you can't do, but you can train people, and you got to establish that as part of the culture is that our professionals are working on their game.
Daily, but also vision. Sit there. I was a big vision of winning key school. I mean, I would give myself 10 to 15 minutes a night. And Carl introduced me to a hypnotist who I still use, Liz Fogarty. She's great, but I would sit there and I would envision myself doing what I wanted to do, which was key school.
Do you meditate now?
I fall asleep every night to the tapes that Liz makes. So she'll make me a new tape every day.
They're really good.
It's a positive thing. It's about she's telling you positive things and about every time you're going to win the bowling class. Like you love being out in Seattle. You've trained yourself. You're ready. You're prepared. You're working out. You're doing the right things. And you fall asleep to this. She's got a great voice. You fall asleep to this, and your subconscious mind is still awake when you fall asleep. So you fall asleep. So your subconscious mind is awake. Your subconscious mind is awake 20 minutes after you fall asleep. All her tapes are 35 minutes. I listen to them and I can fall asleep just like that. So I'll listen to it for 15 or 20 minutes. She'll still be talking. I wake up in the morning and we do this every day.
That's very interesting.
Little tricks.
Yeah, using your mind. I mean, there's lots of research. You can beat balls for 7 hours, or you hit balls for 2 hours and go back, close your eyes, think about your golf swing for 40 minutes and probably get the same work done. We know that, you just closing your eyes and visualizing a perfect swing and perfect tempo is almost as good or better than hitting golf balls. Because keep in mind, when you do that, you always make a perfect swing, hopefully. When I envision myself making a golf swing and a golf shot, I don't see a bad one. I only see good ones, as opposed to sitting on the range where there's sometimes a lot of bad.
And see it down to the tiniest detail.
Yeah,
And I'll go down to the Westchester Open.
Right.
At Glen Arbor. So I've won 2 Westchester Opens out. The first time, I was spinning in spinning class. And someone told me you have to envision, when you envision things, you have to envision it down to the tiniest detail. You can't just see yourself winning, but you have to envision why you're winning, how you're winning. So when I won the first Westchester Open at Glen Arbor, I envisioned myself walking up, I'll get choked up again, walking up the 18th hole with my arm around my son's neck and a tear coming down his eye. My son's very proud of me. And his tear coming down his eye because he sees how much I'm dedicated, right, to my job and my craft. And I would say, I put my arm around him and I'd say, see what it feels like when you work really hard. And I envisioned all the members up top and people were kind of cheering. And sure enough, I'm walking up the 18th, I had a 3 or 4 shot lead. I put my arm around him. I said, see what it is when you work hard and tear came down his eye. So that happened. And I envisioned it. So your brain is way more.
Yeah, I think, and Carl had mentioned when you guys were working on some putting in your visualization techniques and seeing that 30-foot putt roll 30 feet, seeing it go into the hole.
Hard to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly. No,
I couldn't see the ball.
right. I think that was like the tiniest of details, which Carl shared with me when he was talking to you about it. And
It's seeing it roll over that little piece of whatever and a little piece of whatever kicking up in the air. And the ball maybe bouncing a little bit and then seeing it go in the hole and watching that actually the logo kind of fall into the hole depending on what type of speed. That's the detail you gotta do. Maybe seeing a dimple rolling. That's the detail over just seeing the ball roll in the hole.
I'm always interested in everything I don't, which gives me a lot of the topic to be interested in. Okay, and Carl and I talked about this before because he did a seminar for us last season. But the 2 greatest areas in golf instruction for me are the physical components, because I don't think any of us outside of you here realize how important our body is to that motion, even though it's the most important tool we use in our golf swing, and the mental side of it. And I was in conversations recently with Brandon Nashar, who works with long drive guys, teacher of the year in the Middle Atlantic section. And Bernie was saying to me, he said, are you doing any speed training? And I said, I'm doing a few things that I think are helpful. And he says, well, how do you know you should be doing it? And I said, well, I don't. He said, are you screened? He said, he's developing screens. Like he has all kinds of students from Kyle Berkshire, World Long Drive Champion, to the members at Case Valley who were 30 handicaps. He said, I don't know that all my students should be doing speed training. Maybe someone should be physical training, so then they can do speed training. Sure. And then the other thing he was talking about was the mental aspect. And those seem to be the next, the technology's infiltrated the industry and has since the early 90s. These last 30 years have been technology driven. I think your points about the body, Carl's points about the mind are, it's like space. There are frontiers that we don't fully understand.
No, and it's not exciting to sit in a room, close your eyes, and envision things as it is to see a ball fly in the air when you make it spin.
Unless you want it to happen.
unless they want to win.
Well, the thing that I always tell my students of is, the story of Roger Bannister, who was he became a famous physician in England, but he also created the first breaking of the 4-minute mile. And he said he was not the fastest person at that time when he was college age running long distance, but he was the only person that believed it could be done. And he did it. And then shortly after he did it, everybody started. And I always get back to that, like,
And before he did it, Sports Illustrated put an article on the top that the human body couldn't. It was impossible. You couldn't make enough oxygen to do it. There's actually an article written that said it was not possible, and then he did it, like you said, a dozen
Sports
people did it
Illustrated
within a
changed the
year.
story.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really interesting that you're breaking it down like that. Because that prepares you.
And that's
So when you go to, okay, you're gonna go to Chuck Classic, you know the golf course. Now, are you gonna, do you spend time at night playing some of those holes?
Every night. Every night before the round, I play the golf course. Every night. When I'm laying with 100%.
So we gotta add that total number last year now.
Yeah.
How many holes are you playing at night?
I'm playing 18 holes a night. I play I have a game.
So you got 18 during the day and then you had another 18 at night. You're busy, man. Well, it is, right?
Not physically doing it, mentally.
And how long did you do this before you felt like it's not such a hard thing to do? Because I'm doing push-ups, right? I'm gonna do 5 or 10, so I can do 15 or 20.
Probably 2015 was when I first started really doing it. I mean, and again, I always saw myself, doing it, winning Q School 18 years ago when I left the Canadian tour. But I didn't envision it like to the finest detail until 2015. And a friend of mine, Ron, there's a great thing, a movie called The Secret.
That's the lady that Jay Hill catch.
So Rhonda's an amazing woman. She
is an amazing
she's
woman.
amazing.
He travels the world.
Yeah, and she has a beautiful mind, and she's really strong mentally. And there's a thing called The Secret, which is if you watch it on it's a movie, you might not watch it, you might watch it. It'll change your life.
There's all kinds of motivational stuff. We talked about Rocky. You watched Rocky 3 last night. Like how motivational is that?
Rocky 2, Rocky 1, my dog,
And it's everybody finds their own incentive, their own motivation. You have to be motivated to get up and do what he does every morning, and you got to be motivated to go to sleep at night instead of checking Instagram. Sit down and play the course in your head. So you got to be motivated, and obviously there's an incentive that's great here, but you got to be consistent at it.
Yeah,
It's amazing for you to share with all of us. We appreciate and all our members just how much work you're doing more work off course than you ever are on course.
I've got a chance now to do all the work to just focus on my game, which when I find all these little tidbits, it's like when you guys do work in your job to make your jobs better, to make your members' lives better. You find these little tidbits that make your, look at this place built, these little tidbits that make your job better. I do that with the golf game.
One of the things that impressed me when I was looking at your stats, I was also, pulling up other players, which you're going to do as well, is Stephen Alker was really good at everything this year.
Okay.
Wasn't he?
He was, there's
I was
four averages
saying,
and then
there's Alker averages, right? So he was very, very good at it. And I think for a player who has never had the success that he has had compared to Patrick, who's multiple major winner and and Ryder Cup and everything else that he's played in, is that that was just a phenomenal season. That must inspire you to see somebody like Stephen Alker come out and do that.
I mean, anytime you see a player do, like Tiger was inspiring too. I compare this season that Stephen Alker had to one Tiger's race.
I think Stephen Alker was the best story in golf last year,
100%.
without a doubt.
Yeah, and he's a very unassuming guy.
Oh, sure.
He's super nice, super cordial, kind of a smaller, skinnier guy, and just gets it done. It's
does
so
get it done.
impressive.
Steven somehow flipped the switch to I belong here. And I deserve to win. We talked a lot about this is, you have to believe that you put in the work and you deserve this, not I'm taking it from a bunch of people. You have to believe that you belong out there. And I think that's what he's going to have his second year. No matter what, that rookie year is, I'm a PGA of America player. I'm on the tour. I'm a rookie. This year is going to be totally different. I don't think anybody's going to be asking him about the rookie season. They're going to be thinking he's here to stay.
100%.
And the crowds know that you're a club professional by trade,
Yeah.
and now and they must love that underdog status.
You hear, yeah, I got a couple good stories, but I'm walking down one of the holes, the ninth hole, and there was this woman standing by a marshal. And there was like one woman, she had a glass of wine in her hand, she was a little saucy, and we were walking up, and I had all my stuff on, and I walk up to her and I'm like, hey, how you doing? She's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, who are you here to follow? She goes, I don't know who's in this group. She goes, well, who's in this group? I hear, oh, this Rob Labritz is really and she's like, who's he? I said, well, he's one of the tour players out there playing.
So you're telling her about yourself.
Right, so I said, Labritz is really good. She said, She goes, look around. You know, and then my caddy walks up, you know, and she's like, well, who's that hitting right now? So that's Stephen Ames. She said, well, who's the other guy? Well, that's whoever. And she goes, well, where's that Rob Labritz? And I gotta go. I'll see you later. And I started walking away, and my caddy walks up, and passes me. And then the marshal goes, he just pulled the wool over your eyes. He goes, that's Rob Labritz. Right? And she's like, sorry, it's not one funny little thing. She's like, of course I was dressed, I had all the logos on me, and she didn't quite recognize, but you hear.
But she followed, she today, she came back. For sure, trust me, she followed.
With her wine,
You hear.
it was a Sunday night for her.
But, quick story, I think it was in Texas, Rob's Pro-Am experience is different than most of the tour players. He's a PGA golf professional when he's in the Pro-Am, especially early on. He took it on as, hey, I've got to make this a great experience because these people pay $5,000 each to play with me, right?
It is what it is.
He's teaching, I'm out there walking with him, I'm coaching people. And in one tournament, remember, they created their own Rob's Mob. In that they had the people he played with had a corporate tent. We didn't know who they were at Pro-Am, but it turned out they had like the tent on 16. And as he came up, they all started chanting, there's Rob, and day in and day out. So he's making a ton of friends out there. Being a PGA golf professional is definitely paying off.
Yeah, it's cool because you get
Definitely
to
different.
interact with people. I love to help people on the Pro-Ams. Whereas there's certain guys out there that literally will get in a car and they won't hit a shot with the partners, but they have to play with them, and they'll just ride and won't say a word.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation.
And you make it an experience.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, man. You do it for 30 years. I'm sure sooner or later you're gonna get tired of it.
Yeah.
No
You
qualms.
should tell the Corey Pavin story about how Rob was coming off on a hole and he said, Corey, this is so cool. And Corey kind of stopped him and said, Rob, I enjoyed playing with you because I'm not having as much fun as you are. I've been out here for so long. I'm watching you like this guy's having fun. And Corey's like, I'm not having.
I was just finding the fun again.
And it's been refreshing. He's like, I should be having as much fun as you are because you're right. We are lucky to do this.
And Corey and I have become good friends, and he always says, God, let's play practice round again. I love playing with you. You have so much energy. He goes, and that's what the guys, I guess, feel from. I truly love being there. I love every second.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're entertainment for us.
That's cool.
No, but that's what it is, right? And I know you and I follow you, and I probably follow you more than I should when I'm teaching. I go to the men's room and like, how's Rob doing the time, right? Because I love following you, right? I love to see your success, but it's entertaining and it's fun to follow you and hope that you have a good back nine, because I know you're going to make the cut in all but probably two events.
Well,
Three events.
the only ones
Majors.
that have cuts are, the senior, US Senior Open, the British Open, the senior players, and I think those are the only three that you have a chance of missing the cut. The rest, there's three.
Right, so you got three events that you gotta make cuts in, but everything else, you're in the field for the week. But it's, at the end of the day, just like you said with the Pro-Am partners, right? I remember an experience I had at the US Open at Wingfoot, and I was doing some film work for Peter Jacobson because he works with Jim Hardy, who was staying in my house in Brent, and we were playing with Fury. And at one point, Peter was signing all these autographs. And Jim was like, Peter, we got a round to play. He said, well, I got autographs to sign. He says, these people came here to see me. And he said, and so later we were talking, we went to lunch, and we were talking about it. And Jim says, do you just like feel like you need to engage everybody? Peter says, no, just the people I need. And Peter was great. Peter is awesome at teaching other professionals how to be what you already know. And I just think it's so warm to watch you walk up on that first tee and you're videoing everybody. And you care about the fans, of course. And then they reciprocate because down you got Rob Mob.
They do. That's what's cool about it. Because if you can get the crowd behind you, you feel the energy behind you.
That's adrenaline.
And then adrenaline, and you know what? The support out there, people start cheering for you. It makes you want to play better. It makes you want to work harder.
You feed off that.
It's nothing better. Nothing better than going over to someone and shaking their hand. Oh, what's your name? Oh, I'm Rob Labritz. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I play the Champions Tour. Really? Oh, that's cool. I've never heard of you. I know because you've never. I'm a newbie. I'm a rookie out here. Well, have you ever played with Tiger Woods or anything else? And I'll say, well, I played with Tiger, but I played with Ernie. And then all of a sudden you do well in the tournament like that week, right? And they're like, they come up to you at 18, they're like, wow, great play. And then they follow me, text you.
And they're gonna be there next year.
Yeah, and they shoot you on Instagram, they follow you on Instagram, they're whatever, they're engaging. All of a sudden they're, you become sort of friends. I mean, perfect example, and this is coming back to a club pro, National Club Pro, Bluffton, South Carolina. We come up to the 13th hole. It's during a practice room. And there was one guy standing on the 13th hole, and I went right up to him. There's one guy watching, somebody wants to watch those club pros play, but he's standing on the tee watching everybody. I go up to him, hey, I'm up from Fritz. He's like, hi, I'm James Brown. I was like, what? James Brown? And he goes, yeah, Jim Brown. He goes, yeah, we're right over there. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I was like, how long have you been here? We talked for 2 minutes. I hit the shot, right? So we're coming off 18, right? He goes, you're my new favorite golfer. He followed me, okay? All rounds, every round. We qualified for the PGA Championship at Bethpage, and he's one of my best friends. He's a retired judge now from Chicago. He's the guy who wears Rob Labritz 64 jerseys all over the place. One of my best friends.
Q school.
He was it was his birthday. He was in Hawaii when I won Q school. Okay.
But I remember the jersey. I saw it.
He was out. He's come out to watch every time I drive down to Florida. I stop at his house in South Carolina. Him and his wife Susie. They're two of my best friends. And it's just because I went up to him. He goes, no one came up to me. He goes, I watched 15 groups come by, and no one said hello to me.
Nobody cares.
He goes, you came up and said hello to me, and he goes, you became my favorite golfer. And he goes, of course. Then I mentioned we hung out. They took me to dinner after we qualified for the tournament, and we became friends. And it's like it doesn't take much to.
But I think the lesson there is, like Rob said earlier, he's not thinking about his golf shots and stuff in between. So you stand there in this group on the green. He'd rather talk to somebody than stand there and be like, all right, 220, what on the left. He'd rather chat with people. And then when it's time, go and make a quick decision, hit the shot, and move on. And that's what allows them to do that.
So you embrace the fans, which become part of your support group to help you get through the day.
One more story. Yes.
Oh, we got
One last story. Well, this is so
much time as you have.
Q school. We're at Q school, first stage of Q school. I'm coming up to the 10th hole at Q school, and I'm playing in Q school. And it's the I don't know, the third round, and there's 4 guys standing there. And of course I go up to them, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, how you guys doing around here? It's up Buckhorn Springs. And oh yeah, I'm so-and-so, I'm Andy, great. We finished. I said, oh, I gotta go hit a shot. So I hit the shot, I finish my round, and I come out the next day. I don't see anybody. The final round, I come out of the locker room, and Todd's waiting for me by my cart, and there's a gentleman standing there, and he was standing there by. He was the one I met on the 10th hole, and he comes up to me and he said, how are you doing today, Rob? And I said, I'm great. I said, he goes, do you remember my name? I said, yeah, Andy. He goes, I just want you to know. He goes, you came over and talked to us, and I prayed for you. And I said, wow, well, thank you, Andy. I said, I really appreciate it. He goes, no, he goes, I just wanted to come. He goes, it's no weird thing. He goes, I just wanted to let you know that I came out here and I prayed for you. I'm a God guy, and I prayed for you. And I hope you do well. And I said, well, thank you very much. I went out in the final round and shot 67 and finished second in the tournament, right? Whatever. And so fast forward to the finals. Okay, we're going into the final round, and before the final round of finals, before I got my card, I was in this. Carl got a phone call from me. I'm in tears. I'm on the ground. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm 3 shots back. I'm inside the number. I want this so bad.
And you got to play.
And I got to play. I'm calling Jim
And
Herman. I'm calling Rich Beam. I'm calling Bill. I'm calling Carl. I'm calling my wife. I'm calling everybody to just give them, tell me what I'm supposed to do this final round, because I don't want to mess this up. I don't, whatever. So I'm a mess. Okay. I finally go to sleep that night. I wake up the next day. I go into the locker room. I come back out, and Todd's standing by my clubs. And who's standing by my clubs? But Andy. Andy comes over to me and goes, prayed for you again today. And I said, Andy, I came over. I gave him a big hug. He goes, I want you to meet my wife. His beautiful wife, Meg, was standing next to him. And I said hello. And then, so now they are very good friends. They followed me for about 10 months this year. And they're, they kind of turned me, got me reinvigorated about God. And I
So that was, it was a small gesture.
Small
which was a
gesture.
Great gesture.
turn my life around. I go to Bible study every Thursday on tour, and it's just one of these things where little things like that can change your life. Listen, I'm a Catholic guy. I've always believed in God, but and I don't preach it, but I believe, right? So, but to have those instances, and to have that power of guys, and I've reached out to Minnie, and Minnie's, I have things going on. He's got a group of people that pray. It's just, you just never know who you're going to meet. So just engage with people.
And that gives you confidence.
It's phenomenal.
John Schmo, you and I, church Sunday.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you have a family on tour that supports you.
I have fans.
You're creating a family of fans out
and just a bunch of good people that
there. You embrace them, they embrace you.
and I've introduced them like an ex-girlfriend of mine came out and watched me in the final round of an ex-girlfriend from 20 years ago. Came out and she lives down there. But it's one of those things where she doesn't need to do that, but now all these people are connected. Like one of
You
my
connected with an elementary school.
an elementary school, John Holcomb. No, friend, Kim comes out in California. Hey, you remember me from elementary school and yeah, oh my God, John Holcomb. I mean, there's so many people that come out of the woodwork, and now all these people are following me. So Jim Brown knows Andy and Meg. Andy and Meg know John Holcomb. John Holcomb knows Paul Cummings. Paul Cummings is an old friend of mine from high school. There's just all these people that come out, my friends from Florida, and they're all connected. And it's just because I go and say hello to
Because of golf.
because we're golf.
So it's more than playing, because we all know good playing opens doors and gives you opportunities. Being nice goes a lot farther.
Well, what I think it is,
Yeah.
I think the tour player's been out there doing it forever, just takes it for granted.
I don't know if they take it for granted.
Because it's just part of what it's work on, right?
It's work.
But it's not work for you.
I mean, it's work, but
It's fun work.
it's fine. Because this is the game we can never master. We can always get better. We can always share. I can learn from Nick. I can learn from Carl, you, John. I mean, I can learn from everybody in this room. We all can learn from each other. You guys are going to teach me things that I don't know, and hopefully I can teach things that you guys don't know. And that's what it's all about. That's why we're all PGA pros. If we can keep that going, that's why this section's the best. I mean, we got 90 people or something watching this, I hope, which is crazy. I hope everybody's listening and watching this. It's in the middle of January. This is awesome.
Well, last year, you and Carl and Debbie set the record of most attendees, which we broke today.
Great.
All because of your willingness to share and Carl's willingness to share.
Well, I hope everybody took away something.
Oh, I'm sure we did. Does anybody here have any questions, any comments? Party? Yes. Andy.
I've known you for a long time, and energy level is just it's great to see, and it's hard to keep going like that. As far as, but I know you can. As far as your workout, I had the good fortune to spend some time with Rory last month, and I asked Rory about working out, and he said he's got an 8-week window right now where he can go really hard.
Right.
But he said when he gets out on tour, he's got to really throttle it back because there's so much energy that goes into playing, and so he tries to balance that. Are you getting any of that right now? It sounds like you're going full throttle.
Right now, it's all power. It's all power. Tyson and I are power. Curtis does my stretching, keeps my body limited. He says, once we get out, and every 2 weeks, Tyson's going to change my thing. And then once we get out to tour, it's going to be different. It's going to be mostly maintaining stretching. That's what I did this year. I lost, I think it was like 9 pounds this year from when I started the tour because I wasn't lifting. I mean, the year prior, I was on the Peloton and I was going nuts with the Peloton. Andy Spear was my guy. And I got myself up to about 185 pounds and I was shredded, right? As I went out there, my body became thin again, but I became very supple because of all the stuff I did because we're not doing any power. So 100%, you can't go out there and try to lift and try to be strong. You got to do your power off season, and then you got to do your maintenance and your daily routine, your stretching, and you can still do a little bit of power, but you can't do. You're right. It's an 8-week window. So when I start in February, it's not going to be the same.
You're on tour schedule for your body and stretching and workouts. How many hours a day?
Usually 2, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. And then during the day, I always carry my perfect. So the legs. Tyson's got my arms back, so I'll use my third round, but 2 hours.
And with your work with Tyson, obviously you're feeling much different in your body.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's great. I can just feel he's opened up a lot of little muscles and Curtis does as well. I mean, I've got 2 guys that just know the body better than me, so it's a good combination.
Great. Any other questions or other comments?
Any shots that stick in your mind as far as nervousness, anxiousness through the season and how you control your emotions in that time?
Yes, 3rd round U.S. Senior Open. I got a 2-foot putt on the last hole. And I'm standing over this 2-footer, and that hole looked like it was about the size of a pea. And I'm standing over this thing, and I said to myself, there's no freaking way that I can make this putt. My body went into shaking. I was standing over that 2-footer like this. And I get up over the ball, and I'm like this. And all of a sudden, my body starts going. And I hear in the back of my brain, sharp, and I'm like, what the heck? So back off, and I look around, right? And the whole crowd's watching, right? And I'm like, oh, gosh, everybody's seeing me shake. Calm yourself down, take a breath, take a breath. I was like, it's a 2-footer. I mean, you've made millions of 2-footers in the time, right? And I'm nervous. I'm
Nobody
the most nervous I've ever been on any shot. So this is great. I get up over that thing again, and I'm like, okay, just get up there, free your mind, and make my practice strokes. Baby shark got in my head. So I started laughing to myself, and I pulled myself away. Hey, it's okay, just get up there now. So I took the two breaths, backed away twice. So I get up there and I hit this thing and I pushed the crap out of it. And my whole body convulsed and it kind of did 360 in a way. And I was like, oh, and I felt my body, I felt like my heart went into my head, into my feet. Like I felt like I convulsed, but it went in the hole. So I turned to Mark, my cat, and I said, Mark, I said, I almost just pooped my pants. 2-footer. And he goes, you know what? He goes, Papa, because you made it. He goes, so now it's not going to be that big of a deal because you just made that one. He goes, I don't care if it went on the right side because you made it. So draw from that. So now, fast forward to the final round, okay, where I made double on 17. I blow my drive right on 18 into a bunker. I hit a decent kind of 7-iron short right of the green in the nastiest rough possible to a short pin on the right where nobody's going to be. And I just remember Carl saying, envision the shot, see where you're trying to land, see where you're trying to land. It was a nasty ride. I hit this shot perfect, landed right on my spot, and it rolled up. And Mark was saying, slow down. I'm like, Mark, that's perfect. Rolled up to like 6 feet past the hole. And I got like a 2.5-footer or 2.5 cup breaker from 6 feet. And I drew on my experience from the day before of Baby Shark, right? And I said, okay, just take your line, get up there, pound, bury that sucker right. And that saved me a bunch of money. So now, fast forward, I talked to David Orr, who helps in my putting. And I told him about that whole experience. And he said, Rob, when your body started to sing Baby Shark, it was comforting itself. You should just hit the putt. Because if that ever happens to you, don't back off and laugh. He goes, hit the putt. That's your brain calming yourself down. So just go through it and hit it. You'll make it. So I said, okay. So that was probably the most nervous. Yeah. Crazy.
So poor players get nervous.
Oh my God, I mean, everybody does. They all do. And I don't know if Alfred gets nervous, but everybody does. Yeah.
He probably gets nervous on the way to the bank. Right? Any other questions? Any other comments?
This comment, again, Rob, nothing but positive. And a couple stories. 2016 at the PGA at Baltusrol. You played with Ryan Palmer and Gary Woodland for 2 rounds. And so I saw Rob when he came up after the 2nd round. He said, I said, Rob, how was it? So what'd you learn? He said, Tom, I learned a couple things, but he said, the main thing I learned, he said, I hit it a lot straighter than those guys. He said, but from 100 yards in, they're unbelievable. The magicians. He said, I got to get better. And so it goes to what you were saying here, what you've learned. That was 2016, and you knew it then. And obviously, you've done your work, and you got it done.
I still need to get more work done on my short game.
And everybody that's watching, everybody that's here, is so proud of you.
Appreciate it. Well, appreciate you guys being here. It's really cool to have you all here, and everybody out there. I just love sharing stories, so anytime you talk to me.
Well, we're gonna do this next January, first week, discuss the victory. And, you know, on behalf of myself, the education committee, everybody in the room and everybody in Zoom world, we want some reasons to cry next year. And we'll cry with you.
Over under 3 victories.
Thank you.
That'd be good.
Carl, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The end of the session. If you have any concerns, any questions, like email me, email Carl, and we'll get them answered. Rob is gonna go work out. Good day. See you next week.
See you.